Good morning. I'm Reverend Paul Beckel. Welcome to Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. Welcome to those here in person and to those here on Zoom. Welcome to those who attend primarily with your eyes and those who tune in best with your ears. Some of us can be most present with our eyes and ears closed, experiencing both the warmth of this community and its imperfections by a feeling in the air. Others have done their research and interpret this moment within the context of patterns and variations on these patterns. However it is that you take in this moment, let's do it with an openness of connection to one another. And I'd like to introduce Mo Masavi, who's going to play melodica for us for our prelude. Pam met Mo in the park the other day and said, come play for us, and he said, I'd be delighted, so thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It's a unique pleasure and a great opportunity. Thank you, Pam. And appreciate it. I'm going to play for about 4 hours, I think. So hope there's lunch. Hope nobody runs away. You know where the exit is. All right. So I'm going to play a little bit of a serenade, a Persian serenade, for hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much, Mo and Andrea. I recently heard the author Kevin McElvoy describe his writing process and how much longer it takes to express things in fewer words. I'm going to share now a passage he says started out as 20 pages, but so much was lost, he said, in all the wordiness. He sensed he'd gotten it right only when he'd listened closely enough to get it down to a few paragraphs. I hear white-throated sparrows, transients, moving on. Janet turns 19 today. I turn 80. I hear from far above the sound of a hawk at great height and straining to go higher. I hear from a small apple orchard along a stream bed. It could be nearly 10 miles away, a flock of grackles at maximum shrieking obnoxiousness, and the blistering reactions of the blue jays near them, and the responses of the four-legged creatures intimidated by the blue jays. I hear gnats slurring in vortical swarms with a rising inflected note and a note soft falling. The catbirds, I hear them. If I will only hear them and will not allow myself to remember hearing them at other times and will not look at them, I will hear them if I will not ruin the transmission by welcoming in my other senses. The sounds coming to visit me would be lost in the moment I opened my eyes and arms and smelled and tasted and touched, deducing fragrance and sweetness and chill. And if I will not imagine what I hear, but will actually hear, then what comes to me are broom sweep sounds, the wings of nuthatches, the thrushes, bluebirds, purple finches, sparrows flying through and impossibly audibly plucking but not breaking acrobat threads of balloon spiders, riding the wind, letting the threads go, extending their legs before parachuting on the air currents and relaunching. Distant, faint thunder is inside the sunlight today. Sleet striking a pond at a higher elevation vibrates inside the sunlight today. And the vocalizations of creatures at the entrance to their burrows. One might believe that today the sun has touched the faces of them, has brushed the charged roots and branches and treetops, and the glistening webs and feathers and fur in order to sing and to be heard. Will you please join me now in sharing our covenant? Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service gives it life. Celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth, we work for peace and honor all creation. This is our covenant. I have a little story for whomever wants to listen. Whether you listen with your eyes or your ears or your heart or however it is, it doesn't matter. Hey there, old friend Orka-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Hi, Raffi, but I'm not that old. No, I know you're not old. But I hear you come from a family that goes back and back and back and back thousands of years. That is true, Raffi. So is it getting cold out there nowadays in the Salish Sea? Oh, it's been so great these last few days with the fresh rain and, the clear skies are so great because we have to come up for air, and it's not real easy wearing a mask out when you're swimming. No, I suppose not. Maybe someday you'll go swimming with me? Yeah, maybe. It's nice that I can go in pretty deep without getting my hair wet. But I don't dare look down where you are. Do you ever get scared down deep like that? Well, yeah, sometimes. But then I just sing. That's why I'm called Orca la 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 la. I just sing, and I know my pod is there somewhere. They have really good ears, so they can always find me. And so we can somehow stick together, even if we're not right next to each other. But then you're a good listener too, Raffi. You have such a big heart. Yeah, thanks, Orca la 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 la. It's true, though. Giraffes do have the biggest heart of all the land animals. That's because with our long necks, you need a big heart to be able to push the blood all the way up against the gravity. So do you ever get scared, Raffi? Yeah, I do sometimes, but then when I do, I just take a really long breath, and it takes so long for it to get down there that by then sometimes I forget what I was scared of. And in the meantime, I can think about what a good friend you are. Aw, thanks, buddy. That's good to know there'll always be room in your heart for me. Hey, do you remember that song? That song? Isn't it in the Teal Hymnals, number 1012? Oh, yeah, I love singing that. La, 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 la. When I am frightened, well, yeah. Oh, let's wait for the piano. Okay. When I am frightened. Let's wait for the piano. When I am frightened.
When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, then I may learn to care as you do. Then I may learn to care. When I am angry, will you still embrace me? When I am thoughtless, will you understand? Will you believe in me? Stand by me willingly. Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me acceptance, then I may learn to give as you do. Then I may learn to give. When I am troubled, will you listen to me? When I am lonely, will you be my friend? Will you be there for me? Comfort me tenderly. Will you share some of your feelings with me? If you will show me commitment, then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to love.
Judy, will you join me?
Judy Casper, and I'm the chair of the Hospitality and Membership Team. Building community is essential at Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. Building community is a life-affirming, sometimes challenging, and always complex art. One that takes practice, reflection, and reaffirmation from time to time.
As we grow in our relationships, we appreciate new faces, new ideas, and new perspectives. So we appreciate the opportunity today to welcome our newest members and to renew our sense of purpose as a beloved community. We have 3 people listed as new members in the order of service. But Jen Baptist has COVID, and so she said that she will come another time. So I'd like to welcome Kathy Forrest and Anna Matheson to come on up. And if you'll just introduce yourself briefly by saying what brings you to Buff and what you bring to Buff. And then we have a little welcoming statement. I'll invite you to sign the membership book and give you a rose, too. Okay. Oh, and a name button.
I'm Kathy Forrest and was part of the East Shore Unitarian congregation down in Bellevue. Peter Luton was my minister for 25 years. So I just moved to Bellingham, and I'm so lucky to have an instant community of people that I know I share values with and that I know that I'll be comfortable with. And Buff has offered so much so far with, I've joined chalice circles and the dance circles and the women's retreats and all kinds of things, and it's just been wonderful. And I guess what I have to offer is by helping with create community, and whenever there's get-togethers, I'll probably be there.
I'm Anna Matheson, and I wanted to start with what I'm bringing. I'm bringing a lot of joy and enthusiasm and my childlike playfulness, and something I see very much reflected already, all of those in this church, is curiosity. I'm also bringing my love of dance and singing. And sailing. If anyone here has a sailboat, I didn't bring one with me. Also, I'm bringing my passion in supporting people to have peaceful deaths. I'm passionate about death and dying. I was a hospice social worker, and I've done a lot of work in North Carolina before I moved here recently with helping people to make that transition and supporting their families, people who want to die at home and people who would like a natural burial. I believe that each human being on the planet is always doing the best they can. If we hurt someone, if I hurt someone else or hurt myself, it's because I'm suffering so much. And I learned this very well when I worked for 8 years with male inmates in a jail in Asheville as a volunteer. I knew that if I had been in their circumstances, I would be the one in jail. And if they had been in mine, they'd be the one coming in to be with them in circle. And we were all so nurtured by that hour we had together once a week. Why am I joining this community? Because I feel all of the qualities that I bring are reflected here. Is that my time already? Paul told me I only have 3 minutes. I cannot do anything to help myself heal from my pain or to help anyone else heal from pain and suffering without community. That's my belief and that's my experience. And I find that community here My main teacher is Thich Nhat Hanh. I've been one of his students for 20 years, and that was true there too. His monastics don't do anything alone. They always do everything with a second body, except maybe go to the bathroom. So I already feel so supported by the Buff community, even though most of you don't know me. When we end with our circling around for peace and freedom, I always feel totally connected to everybody in the circle. Thank you.
Speaking now to the people of the Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship, will you embrace this new group of members who have pledged to support the work of this community, both financially and in their own unique ways, always rediscovering the intersections between their gifts and fresh opportunities for Buff to grow in its mission? Will you make room for these people and look for ways to include them in our caring community? And the response is on the order of service. Yeah. To learn and to serve. We will accept responsibility for our own actions and strive to practice forgiveness and expect you to do the same.
May this community be blessed in our ministry together, and may we honor our covenants here, always growing, learning, and deepening our connections.
Show them Since the 2016 election, the Black Lives Matter movement, the climate crisis, and the Me Too movement, I've experienced a deepened awareness of my relatedness and my responsibility to all living beings, primarily through the resurgence of people telling their stories. For one thing, I'm now more aware than ever that I come from the exclusive perspective of white privilege in every aspect of my life, conscious and unconscious, private and public. And as informed as I try to be, I have not yet been able to transcend the story I've heard all my life, the story we've all been told. A story that on the one hand I know is no longer true, yet on the other hand, it's the story I've lived my whole life. It's the story of separation. Like many of you, I'm choosing to rethink that story. I know there's a bigger story, a more inclusive story, a story that encompasses all stories, and that's the story I am now listening for, the story of connection and interdependency. It's the story that penetrates my body, my whole being in moments when I listen deeply to another's story. In moments often unexpected, when I find myself at ease, at peace. You know those times when you're walking through a forest, climbing to a mountain peak, swimming in the ocean or a lake, creating or listening to a piece of music, a poem, witnessing a birth or a death, the surrender in lovemaking, those innate impulses of connection. Without effort, anxiety lifts, depression dissolves, the chest relaxes, senses awaken, and a stillness engulfs you. You are completely in the moment, at home in your body, in your mind, and in your spirit. You are present and connected. It's in moments like these when we realize how disconnected we've been from the life we long to live, the life we were intended to live. We have been homesick and didn't know it. We've been hurrying through our days, isolated, distracted, and separated, caught in the jet stream of the anxious world. We've been living disconnected from our deepest yearning and the innate impulse for connection. In these moments of realization, we know we are listening to something that's beyond the surface of the noise all around us and in us, something bigger than us, bigger than what we see, bigger than what we can rationally explain, but something our body and soul senses and resonates with. I know this personally because when I experience that, there is no separation between me, where I stand, who I'm with, what I see, and what I hear, as well as what I feel. I am listening with my heart, not my head. I'm experiencing deep listening. When we listen with our head, we understand more. And when we listen with our heart, we feel more of life, and we are moved by that innate inner impulse to connect. Such a moment strengthens our heart through compassion and humility and allows us the possibility of being permanently changed by what we are experiencing. If we are to ever glimpse the world outside the stubborn certainty of our minds, we have to put down the readiness to have an answer or a reply to everything we hear. And it matters because in the present moment, we have a choice to listen or to hear. To listen for the bigger story that connects us to each other, to the earth, and to the great mystery. Indigenous people understood this and stood barefoot on the earth and listened to her. They listened to the winds and the waters, to the animals and the plants, and they listened to the silence. They felt and they knew they were connected to everything and needed to listen deeply in order to stay in harmony with their environments and with each other in order to survive. Deep listening, which is basically being still, being quiet, being fully present with no agenda. It's what Buddhism refers to as a beginner's mind. Deep listening takes practice. Practicing deep listening in our everyday life can make the difference between experiencing separation or connection, between chaos or opportunity, fear or compassion, anxiety or ease. And this gives me hope because in the present moment, as in every moment of our lives, we get the opportunity to choose how we show up for each other, for the planet, and for life. There are many forms of listening we engage in every day, and they all have a place in communicating. Each can be useful, each serves a purpose, or it could get in the way. I'll mention a few. There's active listening, where we listen by observing what verbal and nonverbal messages are being sent by the other, like body movements, facial expressions, tone and volume. And then providing appropriate feedback. For example, I noticed you raised your voice when you were, or you began to tear up when we practice this style of listening and giving feedback for the sake of showing attentiveness to the message being presented. Then there's critical thinking, which is a process for understanding what is said and evaluating, judging, analyzing, and forming an opinion on what you hear. There's informational listening, and that's when an individual listens to learn and understand something in detail, and it's usually followed up with questions and examples. And then there's empathetic listening. That's when we're being attentive and responsive to another's input during a conversation. We're making an emotional connection with the other person and finding similarities between their experience and our own experience to be able to give a more heartfelt response. The challenge in empathetic listening is not to usurp the speaker's story by adding your own comments, experiences, observations, opinions, or advice. Deep listening is bringing witness rather than my judgment. And it necessitates an inner discipline so that I don't finish your sentence in my mind or search my storehouse of opinions for a rebuttal or a defense of the world as I see it. Much of our isolation and sense of disconnection comes from our inability to slow down and let in what is present, what is right before us, in our midst. We all struggle with this. It takes courage, courage to be in the moment, courage to let the silence of the unknown grow between us. What we hear, grow between what we hear and our reflex to reply, our reflex to be ready to respond. In that space of unknown, the known that we are connected surfaces. Our mind has to be still for this to happen, to be able to listen deeply and to feel the connection in our body. If we are ever to glimpse the world outside the stubborn certainty of our current mindsets, we have to put down our readiness to answer and have a response to everything. So let's see, I think that right now I'm going to offer you an opportunity to experience deep listening, if you want to. And that's for us here and for those of you out in Zoom land. I'm going to invite you to pair up, and feel free to decline if you're not comfortable or if this causes anxiety. I get it. So what we're going to do is either pair up or do it on our own or just watch and listen. And in pairs, you'll each take a turn being speaker or listener. When you're the speaker, you will share briefly a time when you experienced an act of kindness. Listener makes no comment. You'll have 2 minutes to do this, and then we'll ring a bell. Paul will ring a dinger, chimes, the bowl, and then we'll break and we'll switch roles. So the person who was doing the listening will now be doing the talking. Pardon me? 2 minutes each. You have 2 minutes, and then we'll ding, and then break and do 2 minutes again. Now, just a minute. Just a minute, folks. Hold it, hold it. Please listen. Listen deeply. If you are not comfortable doing this in pairs, for the first segment, reflect on a time when you experienced a kindness, and then when the second bell rings, reflect on a time when you performed a kindness. Okay, got it? So, hit it, Paul.
Especially the part about don't respond, because I don't think they're doing that very well.
Paul, could you ring it now? Please stop whatever you're doing and switch roles. The listener will now be the speaker, and I request of you, if you're the listener, do not talk. Do not respond. Listen. Thank you.
Mom was playing later though, right?
Correct.
Does he know that?
Yes.
Okay.
And is that right?
That's, well, so you're gonna have, who's gonna be sharing? Is anybody gonna be sharing?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, we didn't switch roles.
during the.
So they get to switch roles now.
You already did that.
I invite you to take a nice deep breath and let it go. Thank you for your presence in this exercise and your participation. And thank you for risking the unknown. Now, while Mo gifts us with his music, I'd like you to take time to reflect on your experience. Think about what kind of listening you were using and to what degree did that facilitate or an experience of connection with something bigger than yourself. In her book, The Fourfold Way, the late Angelus Arian, educator, anthropologist, and author, gathered the perennial wisdoms and spiritual approaches to life found among the tribes and indigenous peoples of each continent. She discovered that most spiritual shamanic traditions shared specific beliefs and understandings that relate to and draw upon the power of the universal archetypes in order to live in harmony and balance with the environment and with each other. She calls upon the wisdom of the archetypes warriors, healers, visionaries, and teachers to show us how to maintain and restore the balance in ourselves and in our relationships and in our environment. It's called the Fourfold Way. Number 1, show up, choose consciously to be present. Being present allows us access to the human resources of power, presence, and communication. This is the way of the warrior. The second one is to pay attention to what has heart and meaning. Paying attention opens us to the human resources of love, gratitude, acknowledgement, and validation. This is the way of the healer. Number 3 is to tell the truth without shame or judgment. Non-judgmental truthfulness maintains our authenticity and develops our inner vision and intuition. This is the way of the visionary. And number 4 is be open to outcome, not attached to outcome. Openness and non-attachment help us recover the human resources of wisdom and objectivity. This is the way of the teacher. When we understand these universal experiences, we are better able to respect the diverse ways in which these shared experiences are expressed by all people. How might one practice deep listening? We can always begin by allowing ourselves to sink into the depth of whatever moment we are in. We don't have to travel far for depth. We simply have to relax our minds into the ground where we are. Consider incorporating the Fourfold Way into your daily meditation practice. Bring it to mind throughout your day and your interactions. Consciously set it as your daily intention. Deep listening facilitates deep engagement with the present, and that's the only moment we really have, and connection with all that is, as it gives one permission to be here now and to begin to listen deeply to everything with our heart and learn to be still with what we hear, so we no longer act habitually from the story of separation, but rather from a conscious choice to live from our hearts and connection. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pam. It makes me think about how we are individuals, each trying to listen, make sense of the world, enter the world, be connected, but also we are a congregation, we are communities, we are communities on so many different levels. The Buff community, I am happy to say, is making a couple of opportunities for connection all the time, but there's 3 I'm going to mention right now. One is next Sunday, we'll be celebrating Halloween, of course. And it has been so long. Actually, last Halloween was the first time we met in person for, 2 years? But just in case somehow the last few years have flown by without a lot of sense of where or when we are, you may have gotten out of the habit of dressing for Halloween. So be sure, that's always been one of our best traditions, is to dress up on Sunday morning for Halloween. So I promise to do so, and I hope you will too. Another thing is that after the service today, we are having an anti-racism, anti-oppression, multiculturalism class called Tragic Investment. James Addington and Mel Hoover, who spoke last week, will be leading that class. It starts at noon and runs to 1:30. If you haven't talked to them, signed up, bought the book or anything like that, I'm betting they will still be very glad to have you join them. And that is being held in the Flex Room. Does anybody know? Is that correct? Where is that? Does anybody know where that class is going to be? Okay. Okay. He's just going to show up. Okay. I'm going to guess it's what we call the Flex Room, which is when you go out here and that direction up a short flight of stairs, then turn right, and it's just keep going up and up and up and up, and when you can't go up anymore, you're in the Flex Room. Otherwise, better yet, just ask somebody. And if they don't know, that's okay too, because then you can explore together. And the last thing I'll mention is that we have begun our Wednesday evening dinners again. So 6 o'clock every Wednesday. Our dinners are going to be simpler than they have been in the past. So those of you who are eager to volunteer to be part of the making of the dinners know that it's not going to be an arduous multi-hour job every week, but we're just going to be making soups and salads. And so that's $5 per person, under 12 free. And so it's every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock down in the social hall, which I hope you'll join us after the service right down these steps for coffee hour. Also, those of you on Zoom, I hope you'll stay for coffee hour on Zoom. Just take the opportunity to introduce yourselves to one another and maybe talk about your experience today. Since many of you probably didn't have a chance to share the experience of kindness, maybe you'll have an opportunity to do that. Well, I hope you'll take that opportunity to do that with one another on Zoom. So those Wednesday night dinners are now called Buff Night In. And I know that you have found so many ways to support the work of this congregation and establish this as a community of connection over the years. And I trust that as the ushers come forward right now, you will be able to give from your heart to the extent that you can.
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 298. Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Deep within the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the blue. Join with each pilgrim who quests towards the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy women and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take us joy, neighbor, both stranger and friend. Praying and striving, their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted the privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
And for the benediction, a prayer of reconciliation by Padraig Otama. Where there is separation, there is pain. Where there is pain, there is story. And where there is story, there is understanding and misunderstanding, listening and not listening. May we, separated peoples, estranged strangers, unfriended families, divided communities, turn toward each other and turn toward our stories, with understanding and listening, with argument and acceptance, with challenge, change, and consolation. Because if God is to be found, God will be found in the space between.
It's hard to hold hands.